Good morning.
Hello.
Mark, if you're listening, where are you?
Again.
Mark is conspicuously absent again, but don't worry, me and Max are here. We're going to walk, or Max and I, should I say. Sorry, brother. We're going to be walking you through this week's action like we always do.
I'm sure Mark will be walking it through with us in about 10 minutes when he messages in again.
Yeah. The annoying thing is, the loyal listeners of the show will know that we obviously have our new favourite segment, the Chicka Chicka Rewind, which Mark was meant to do this week. So now I don't really know what to do about that. We'll have to have a brainstorm. Potentially live on air. Is he here?
No, he's not here.
Oh,
No,
that's just a
sorry,
ginger
no,
guy.
I'm just moving.
That is not Mark.
No.
Mark is not ginger.
No.
But yeah, super exciting show. Loads of really interesting topics to talk about, including the most points scored in an NFL game.
Yeah. Do you know what? That probably did mark him. He probably got so excited that he just passed out.
Mark stayed up for the game last night, which, for those of you who don't know, Monday Night Football refers to the American night, not the British night. So it kicks off at 1:30 and finishes at roughly around 4:30. He was still up at 5 because he messaged our group chat saying, if you haven't seen the score, you should watch it.
It's like, kind of have to do a show about it now.
Yeah. Should probably know the scores. But yeah. Sorry about Mark's absence. I'm sure he'll message in or message us. And
in fairness, I think he did the best thing out of all of us and actually stayed up to watch that game.
Yeah, it was worth it. I'm definitely going to watch the game in 40.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I'll wind that down. It's coming to the end of our little intro segment.
There were some great scores this week.
Yeah, there were. We'll talk about that more later. Normally, this is the point where we do a rewind. And I feel like... Should I try and improvise a rewind?
If you want to.
I'm worried that it won't be good.
It probably won't be.
And I get 10 bonus points for improvising it.
No.
Just want to beat Mark.
Yeah.
I could just run... I don't know what to do. I don't want to make the show boring, and I don't just want to tell everyone the scores.
The whole show ain't going to be boring just because we skip one segment.
Yeah, true. Or if I just... If you don't know the scores, Google them now. And what I'll do is... I will la for 5 seconds so you can briefly check over them. Ready? La 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 la. Cool, right. Everyone knows the scores?
I thought you were la-la-la-ing yourself into a rewind.
La 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 rewind.
Oh.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
I don't really know what to say. My thing is jokes, and jokes take time. How about them Cowboys? I'll say that much.
Yeah. Okay.
Titans, Schmitans. That's as far... Yeah, anyway. Thursday Night Football last week was Seahawks and Packers. At Packers? No, Packers at Seahawks, yeah. Obviously finished 27-24 Packers. I will, given the absence of a rewind when we talk about something, I'll try and remember to say the score. If for some reason you're interested enough in NFL to listen to a podcast, but not interested enough to know the scores. The main thing to come out of that game, I thought, was... It's all kicking off between Aaron Rodgers and I've written Mick McCarthy.
Well, he's aged since last week, so they've changed his name.
It's not Mick McCarthy, is it?
No, it's Mike.
Yeah. Mick McCarthy was the Republic of Ireland manager in the 2002 World Cup. I don't know why my brain has said Mick McCarthy.
No wonder Aaron Rodgers has a problem. His coach doesn't even know the sport.
You want me to kick the ball? We just need to play a solid back four. Oh dear. Mick McCarthy, if you're listening, kind of an Irish legend, but you shouldn't have left Roy Keane out of the squad. But anyway, that was 15 years ago, so we'll move on.
Yeah, I'd get over it at this point.
Mike McCarthy, brilliant. They are, according to NFL.com, at odds over the running of their offense. What do we make of this? Well, what do you make of this? Because Mark's not here.
Yeah. We as in me, myself and I. Well... It's interesting because for not the first time this year, the Packers team has managed to find a way to not get Aaron Rodgers the ball back with time to spare. Having said that, though, the last time he did have the ball, it was an appalling throw to the right-hand side, which didn't even make the receiver. It was that bad a throw. So I think in that sense, I'm kind of over the whole idea of, you needed to give Rodgers the ball back. Maybe you shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. Maybe your defense should be better. Maybe you should be more effective on offense throughout the game. I get it though. I understand his frustration. I think with certain relationships, they can last. For instance, Belichick Brady has lasted for so long because what the Patriots are so good at doing is even throughout every single season is changing things up, keeping it fresh, keeping it unpredictable, making themselves better.
Yeah.
With the Packers, it's been the same thing for.
It's been quite stagnant.
Yeah, it is. It's stagnant, and it's come to the point now where something has to give, and it either has to be Rodgers or it has to be McCarthy. And if I'm the Packers organization, I know which one I'm going to get rid of.
Yeah.
But actually, it's funny because I don't agree with Colin Cowherd a lot.
But
he was making a very good point of saying how Aaron Rodgers has become Brett Favre. In that he's this great gunslinger who has this legacy that's maybe slightly bigger than what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
Because he won his Super Bowl and he had his great years, and then after that he was continuously playing great, but they weren't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And it took Favre to go to Minnesota, of all places, to get back to, well, he was one interception away from a Super Bowl. So I don't know. I'm not saying Rodgers has to go to the Vikings, although looking at the Vikings right now, they could deal with something. But
it's an interesting one. From what as I say every week, I'm no film reviewer. I think I've said that every week for the last 3 or 4 weeks. But just from sponging off other people's ideas, which is one of my top skills, I know that apparently the Packers' offense is notoriously difficult to learn. Mike McCarthy's offense is really, and that's part of the reason why the rookie receivers are doing so badly. And you start to wonder if you've got a situation where you've got such a transcendent talent at quarterback who can make these receivers play better. I don't think there's any doubt that if you use this truck and trailer analogy that I always gone about with quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers is a truck. He is by no means a trailer. Aaron Rodgers is not a system quarterback. He does not get carried by his scheme. He does not get carried by like Devontae Adams, as good as Devontae Adams is. Aaron Rodgers carries these other players. Why not just kind of simplify your offense for these receivers or do something to make it a bit easier? Clearly they can run block like animals. Because ever since they realised that Aaron Jones is a actually half good running back, which we'll talk about in a second because there's some rumours swirling around about that I think we should address, their run game has started kicking off. They can't pass block, so you'd think the logical thing to do would be to rely on a run game, as weird as that might sound with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. And then if you do get yourself into like a 3rd and 6 situation, this is weird because I never advocate a run game, but I am here. If you do get yourself into like a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 or more, you've got Aaron Rodgers who can probably do something with a quite simple route combination or route combination, however you want to say it, with these rookie wide receivers and kind of make something happen. The interesting thing about the Aaron Jones situation is apparently it took Aaron Rodgers kind of standing up and saying to Mike McCarthy, look, you need to give this guy more carries. We need to get more of a run game going. For Mike McCarthy to even do that. And if you look at Aaron Jones the last couple of weeks, I don't have his exact numbers, but he's had over 100 yards in scrimmage, definitely in both of the last 2 weeks, 3 or 4 touchdowns. He's proven that he's quite a more than serviceable running back, particularly with someone like Rodgers. And actually something that, I've been guilty of saying Rodgers hasn't been playing up to his standard this season. Rodgers hasn't been as good as he's been in years ago. Rodgers is playing with essentially a dodgy knee. I still don't think he's fully recovered from the Chicago game. And I think the reason he's still playing is because of his importance to the Packers team.
Oh, God, yeah.
And, they're not going to put Deshaun Kaiser in.
Well, we saw what happened last year when Rodgers went down, season over.
Yeah.
And if he's playing with dodgy knee, that's more of a reason to get the running game.
Yeah, exactly.
And
the best way to protect your quarterback is to give the ball to someone else.
It was frustrating to watch the Seahawks game, actually, because the week before, Jones was being fed the ball, over 100 yards rushing, and then this week, he caught more balls than usual, but the run game was severely limited again.
They just kind of abandoned it.
And there was no reason for it, really, because the Packers were leading the game for most of it. It wasn't like they were trailing.
The Seahawks are a weird example because the Seahawks this year have basically said, wow, you can run a football.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that 80% of the time? Like Seahawks lead the league in runs on first downs.
They have one of the top
They're
defenses.
Pushing 60%, yeah. And they have a defense which can deal with it. They have a quarterback, kind of like, Russell Wilson isn't Aaron Rodgers, but he's that same kind of mold of escape artist who can do things on 3rd and long. And as much as I don't think that's a sustainable kind of system for long-term success, if it's working for you, it's working for you. Yeah. The Seahawks O-line, kind of a mishmash of players who previously haven't been playing very well under Tom Cable, who ironically has gone to Oakland, and guess what's happened to that O-line. But I think their strength also lies in run blocking, not necessarily in pass blocking. So what have they done? They've said, right, well, let's get you run blocking. make every situation a situation where you can't just completely pin your ears back as a pass rusher and just go for Russell Wilson. You have to be mindful of the fact that he could hand it off, and all of a sudden, there's something happening.
I think the thing with the receiver thing as well is if you look at Indianapolis right now, who are playing with very young receivers and are playing very well because the system isn't complicated, but what they know is what they've got. And they've got a quarterback who can make the throws, who is very, very, very good. And as special as I think Andrew Luck is, I think Aaron Rodgers is even more special.
Yeah.
So if it's working for them
how could it not work for you?
Yeah.
I definitely want to talk about the Colts. We'll talk about that in a sec. But briefly, before we go on to that, keeping with this Aaron Rodgers and Mick McCarthy situation, it's weird. Obviously, I grew up watching football primarily, and then rugby, and then cricket, and all these kind of more less American sports, I suppose you'd say. And in all of those sports, the thought of one player being more important than the coach is kind of
blasphemous.
I like maybe someone like Cristiano Ronaldo. But then you look at like Cristiano Ronaldo versus like his manager at United was Alex Ferguson, and if you look at those two, and it's weird because arguably in American football the coaches have even more of an impact on how the teams play based on the schemes that they implement and the playbooks and all these different stuff and the offensive and defensive coordinators that they hire. And yet it seems like in American football it's very common for players to be more important than coaches. So we have Aaron Rodgers, Brady has the eternal question mark, but for me, Cam Newton definitively. Philip Rivers over Anthony Lynn, I would say. As I say this, I realise maybe it's not exactly as clear-cut an argument, but the fact that there are even certain examples, like if we just take Rodgers and Newton. I would say Andrew
Luck, when he was in the previous regime of Indianapolis, which was appalling from
Peyton Manning and
coaching point of view.
Was it Kubiak who won the Super Bowl with them?
Yeah. But, he had Fox before, and by Fox's resume, it would seem that Peyton Manning was the thing propping it up, and then the defense. No, I agree. I think the thing with it is it's such a complicated position to play, and I think sportscasters all the time will say this is the hardest position in any sport in the world to play, because you need to be smart, you need to be versatile, you need to be quick, you need to be fit, you need to be durable, you need to be all these things,
and you need to be able to throw a football.
And I think the thing with this league is it shows both ends of a spectrum. On one end, it shows how important a coach can be to a quarterback's career, not necessarily make their career, but McVay has ignited something in Goff. Yeah. I think if Goff leaves the Rams or McVay leaves the Rams, I don't think Goff will be bad.
Really?
I think what McVay has instilled in him will last. But the point is we can always pinpoint that moment we were like, okay, McVay made Goff.
Of Goff.
Yeah. But equally, on the other end of the spectrum, we see situations where a quarterback is still playing well in spite of it.
Yeah.
A la Rodgers or Andrew Luck from a few years ago.
Cam Newton.
Maybe even Tom Brady now. He's having to fight against a deplorable defense.
Yeah.
And
let's be honest, a mishmash offense.
Yeah, an offense which I can't remember the last season they had a healthy offense, and that includes Gronk and Amendola and Edelman and all the guys they've had going.
Who's the guard? Shaq Mason.
Oh, this year in particular has been
their O-line's been decimated.
Yeah,
which you've got Brady, sadly.
Yeah, so
scrambler.
I think it shows both ends of the spectrum, and I think it's completely true. I think this is one of the very few sports where sometimes you look at the thing and you go, this team just needs the coach. It doesn't need anything else.
I don't think this will be a particularly controversial question or answer, but in light of Green Bay Packers currently, the 2018 Packers, who is more important, Aaron Rodgers or Mike McCarthy?
Oh, it's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
because Mike McCarthy at this point is so disposable, and I think he could be a good coach somewhere else because he is a good coach.
Yeah, I'd love him at the Panthers.
I just genuinely,
he just needs something fresh.
This is the thing. I think people need to calm down from all the hysteria of, oh, you're ruining Rodgers. This is this. Well, okay, just see it this way. Rodgers still has years left to be great, and McCarthy is still a good coach. Yeah. They just need a new direction. Yeah. That's all Green Bay needs.
Just got a bit stale.
Yeah.
I think McCarthy moves on potentially to the Browns.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
I think that would be an incredible idea to nurture kind of Mayfield the same way he's nurtured Rodgers. Because let's face it, yes, I know Rodgers has only won one Super Bowl, and I know that's probably not a great output for the talent that he has.
Yeah.
But if you said to any NFL rookie as they were getting drafted, look, would you take just one Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think as well it's important to point out that I think we're a little bit jaded when it comes to that in this era, because you've got someone like Brady who's been to 8.
Yeah.
It's unprecedented. We've never seen it before. We'll never see it again.
Yeah.
So I think in that respect,
making it to a Super Bowl is an achievement itself. Winning that Super Bowl then should launch you into Hall of Fame status. And yet there's players like Russell Wilson who have done it, and we're still kind of umming and ahhing about whether they're great or not.
Exactly.
Because of the Brady effect.
And I think it's the Brady effect, but ultimately once Brady's in the Hall of Fame, we can stop thinking about that.
And it should chill out a bit.
Yeah.
You are why.
Did that feel particularly loud to you?
No?
I don't know. It just felt
your
particularly
microphones your headphones are screwed up every week.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting one. Right, we briefly mentioned the Colts. I do want to talk about them more. I know we've become like I don't want to say something rude, but essentially we are massive fans of the Colts.
I am.
We potentially kiss their bum a little bit, I would say. Are they the most? Are they the most dangerous team in the league?
Yes.
Nice.
And I know when you look at some of the wins in this winning streak, they've got the Bills, and it's not that
the Titans,
great. But
who did just beat the Patriots?
I mean, this is the thing. All it takes is a little bit of momentum, and everyone was saying they're the best 1-5 team, and now they're 5-5. People are like, I don't know. Really, I mean, this team is growing week by week, and
I'm super excited.
Luck is playing great.
He's playing
his arm strength is back. His accuracy is better than ever. His touchdown to interception ratio is stellar compared to what we've seen from him before. He's working with a great group of young receivers. He's got, versatility all over the place. He's got a running game. He's got a really good developing offensive line. And the defense, while it's not there yet, has star potential in a couple of players.
Yeah.
I don't think if they make the playoffs, I don't think they'll
necessarily
win a game.
Win the Super Bowl, yeah.
But it's a great starting place.
It's just there's another kind of question spinning off of it. I love Frank Reich, and I think he's done incredible things at Indy. How much of Philly's success last year was Frank Reich over Doug Peterson, and how much? Well, I suppose that's one question. Another question is just how much are they missing them this year?
Oh, in Philadelphia. Yeah, Philadelphia's a weird one. I think it is a case of Super Bowl hangover. I think the only team that's ever shown capability of getting over a hangover like that is the Patriots, and then occasionally you got the Seahawks and whatnot. But I think that's a testament to coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Eagles miss him a lot because the Eagles' offense is bad, and I'm sure we'll talk about the Saints game anyway. But
got a new segment coming up. That
was atrocious.
Yeah,
I don't think
it was probably the worst I've seen Wentz play in, well, at least the last 2 years. Probably, I didn't really see much from him as a rookie year.
I can't remember the last time a Super Bowl team who pretty much remained intact after they won it played that bad the year after they won it.
Panthers. I'd put that in the
They
ring.
didn't win it though.
Well, yeah, true.
This is what I'm saying. You are the defending Super Bowl champions. This might be your wake-up call and everything, but Christ, it didn't need to be that bad.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, yes, the coordinator is gone, and we saw what happened to Atlanta with Shanahan. It took them a while to readjust.
They used to have,
but they have the talent.
Is it DeFilippo they promoted to, who was their quarterback coach and is now their offensive coordinator?
I don't know, to be honest.
I think that's what happened,
but the point is it's not good, and clearly, whatever he's taken with him from the Eagles to the Colts is in him.
My favourite thing
working with the Colts
about the Reich offense that the Colts are running is just how they use tight ends. So they've got 3 tight ends on the roster. They've got Jack Doyle, they've got Eric Ebron, and they've got Mo Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox is a rookie who played something like 7 games of American football at college level because he was meant to be a basketball player and then for whatever reason transitioned. Similar to the Panthers rookie tight end Ian Thomas, who only played like 8 games of college football because he went to a JUCO, etc., etc. So he's basically just raw talent who needs to be taught how to play tight end properly. But you can see in some of the catches he makes. There was that one-hander a couple of weeks ago in the end zone. I can't remember what team it was against. Who did they play?
I know what pass you're on about.
That one. Then you have Eric Ebron, who's been essentially a massive bust at Detroit. Eric Butterfingers Ebron, who, an athletic monster who never really could perform when it came down to it and dropped a lot of passes. And somehow Reich's transformed him into just a touchdown machine and the red zone target for this Colts offense. Then you have Jack Doyle, who's a really consistent chain mover and has been one of the best pieces of this Colts offense for quite a long time. Yeah. So you have, in that respect, you have 3 tight ends who, all of whom, Jack Doyle, I suppose, maybe deserves some of the credit. Or has deserved some credit in the past, but the other 2 definitely, haven't been used effectively. Mo Alley-Cox just because there hasn't been the opportunity to, and Eric Ebron because for whatever reason he just wasn't working in Detroit.
Yeah.
And what Reich has done is basically said, cool, let's, instead of making T.Y. Hilton do everything, let's build it around these guys, and let's build it around Marlon Mack and Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins. Suddenly they have a triple kind of running back game. They have a triple tight end game. And what that means for T.Y. Hilton is he's not the focal point of the offense anymore. So in a game like this one against the Titans, he can go off.
Yeah.
Whereas in years past, he's kind of been expected to do that every game.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't do that, then they don't win. It's just, I love watching the offense play. I love silly things like the blocking scheme. Who the hell gets excited about blocking schemes? But because it's Indy and because Quentin Nelson's on that line and Jack Kelly and Ryan Kelly, something like that, and all these other pieces, I like watching, Baldy's breakdowns of the Colts offense and the Colts O-line. It's just exciting.
When you think about everything you're saying too, it's reminiscent of the Eagles last year in terms of the O-line being dominant, in terms of there having multiple tight ends. Last year they had Zach Ertz and Trey Burton and then
Really
Gary Sizer.
A clear number 1 wide receiver.
And then in terms of
Alshon Jeffrey.
wide receiver. But then in terms of running game, you had Ajayi, Blount, Corey Clement, and the whole host of other injured running backs.
It's a weird comparison to make, but I think it works.
But do you know what I also think, though, is he's in charge, which means it will last longer because he will be there longer.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck is better. They're younger.
Do you think, in hindsight, Reich was a better hire than McDaniels would have been?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
If only for the fact that McDaniels' history would suggest to me that he would have already been fired. I don't know. McDaniel seems to thrive in New England, and I'm not saying it's because of New England. If anything, I think New England's offense has partially thrived because of him. When you look at the years he was gone, when he was in charge of Denver, the offense dipped in New England, and then he came back and it got better again.
It just works as a relationship for whatever reason.
If McDaniels was a straight kind of guy who didn't do anything weird in Denver with the whole Spygate thing there, the idea of Josh McDaniels and Andrew Luck is mind-blowing. But based on what we've seen so far of Frank Reich,
I don't think
I'll take that.
Better,
I'll take that. This is a guy who equally has won a Super Bowl as a coordinator, who has worked with one of the best young talents right now. He clearly knows how to manage big-name players because that's all the Eagles was last year.
Even someone like Ebron, who to me seemed like he had a bit of an attitude problem in Detroit. That's a completely unsubstantiated claim, and I'm open to criticism for it. But that was just the impression I got. And suddenly now he's performing and doing things that he never did before. It's exciting to see. Big up the Colts. I like it. Moving on. By the way, if you want to sound off, if you want to tell us we're wrong, we're correct, please do message in, as I say every week. The number to text is 07851 101 313. That's 07851 101 313. You can send us a message via the website at ury.org.uk or tweet us at NFLementary. And if your name is Mark Boyer, get your excuses in. We'd love to hear them. Moving forward, a topic close to your heart.
Close to my heart.
Does Cotter have to go?
Oh, yeah, he does. And it's
so Bucks lost to the Giants this week, for those of you who don't know.
And then
a basement battle.
The merry-go-round of quarterbacks continues as Winston is now the starting quarterback for next week's game.
The world's most boring merry-go-round, isn't it? Because there's 2 seats and it inevitably changes every week.
I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of it.
Just stick to you, man. If Winston produces now, what does that tell you? It tells you that Winston can produce when the pressure's off.
You can tell in the moves that Cotter has made in the last couple of weeks that the guy is desperate.
Losing it, yeah.
He is losing his grip, Hugh Jackson style.
Yeah.
But worse, because he has no conviction in anything he's doing. Yeah. Whereas Hugh Jackson at least believed in what he was doing. He believed he was making things better. So obviously 2 weeks ago against the Redskins, the offense sucks, and then he comes out and says, "Oh yes, I was calling plays.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. I know the reason, but you don't need to know. As in, there was no reason for it. I made a big boo-boo, and now I'm going to go back on that. But the thing is him giving the play calling back to Todd Monken, who just put 35 points in New York. I know it's the Giants, but, shows to me two things. The first one is you shouldn't have done it, which is a big mistake. And then you could say, but at least you learned for it. But the second thing is you gave it straight back. Yeah. You didn't even try, which says, I ain't a good play caller, which he wasn't in Atlanta.
It's like the plane is crashing and he's in the cockpit and he doesn't know what any of the buttons mean, so he's just pushing all of them at random to see if something works.
And then now his big thing is he has no conviction in who his guy is.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, when he took Winston's job from him and gave it to Fitzpatrick, he said, no, it's going to be this guy because, he gives us the best chance of winning. And then this week he says, oh no, it was always Jameis's job to win back. No, it wasn't. That's not what you said 2 weeks ago. You didn't necessarily say the nail was in the coffin for his career in Tampa Bay, but you didn't say that.
You have to be... It's just... If you're Winston or Fitzpatrick now, I know obviously... Well, Fitzpatrick probably less so because he's about 9,000 years old and he's seen it all before. But particularly Winston, your mind is just scrambled because you don't know if you're playing for your job, you don't know if you have a job, you don't know if the pressure's on, you don't know if the pressure's off, you don't know if you need to throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in order just to be able to play next week. You don't know if you have the backing of the coaching staff. You don't know. You probably don't even know which pitch you're going to practice on, really.
And and even to that point, for the rest of the offense, in particular the receivers, they don't know if they're coming or going because they don't know who they're playing with. And if they don't know who they're playing with, if you get Jameis, you know what you get with him.
Yeah.
But if you get Fitzpatrick, you know what you get with him. And particularly for guys like Deshaun Jackson, Chris Godwin, the guys that are usually the more deep threats, your whole game changes depending on which guy you're playing with.
And your whole scheming changes.
The whole scheme changes.
Winston can do things Fitzpatrick can't do. Fitzpatrick can do things Winston can't do.
And so you have no consistency in your offense. Your defense is one of the worst things I've ever seen called a defense. It is awful. It is awful. It's getting to the point where this is just historically bad for this franchise. And this franchise has had historically bad defenses.
And historically good defenses.
But, one of the best of all time.
Yeah. Just to make you a bit happier.
Yeah.
I'll just throw that in there.
No, this is atrocious. This is the sort of territory where it is a matter of time, but because it's Tampa Bay, I don't know if it is. Because it's Tampa Bay. I don't know what we're going to do. If they keep Jameis, the Dirk Carter experiment is over. It has to be. When Matt Ryan was playing under Dirk Carter, he had higher numbers of turnovers than the rest of his career. And now Jameis is here, and Jameis has only ever known Dirk Carter as his offensive coordinator / head coach. And all he's ever known is turnovers.
I'll give you a comparison. You might not run with it, but it's not directly the same, but it's a similar kind of idea. Obviously, I'm going to say Cam Newton because I know more about his career than I do the quarterback. Cam Newton came in. Mike Shula was his QB coach. After 2 years, I think, he got promoted to offensive coordinator. And Cam under Shula was great, but Shula neglected things in Cam's game which he probably shouldn't have. Silly things like taking checkdowns. He probably over-relied on Cam's running ability, which then meant Cam over-relied on his running ability. He forced Cam to try and make ridiculous throws downfield with very little chance of success, leading to the slow completion percentage, perpetrating this idea that Cam's not an accurate quarterback, which, I mean, I'll admit is up for debate at the very least still. And probably putting things in Cam's head. As a young player, you're a young player in the NFL. As much as they have all this confidence and everything, you're going to be very vulnerable and very easily influenced. So if we relate that to Jameis has come in. Cotter was his QB coach. Cotter was then his... Cotter was his offensive coordinator, was it? Yeah. Then Cotter was his head coach. Cotter's been telling him things in a certain way to play ever since he's come into the NFL. I think Winston probably deserves the opportunity to... have a fresh start, have someone else come in and be like, look, Jameis, you can play this way. You don't need to be this kind of turnover machine, this gunslinger. Why don't we work on creating concepts which get you easy completions and things like that, and just try something different. It's worked for Cam with Norv Turner, I think, and I think it would also work for Jameis Winston. Even if it doesn't work, I think Winston, as the number 1 overall pick, deserves the opportunity to try.
That's the important thing. I think it's worth a try, but you have to pull the trigger now because there's no point waiting at any other time, because if you do, it means you're going to have to pay him in a brand new contract, which could waste more time. Yes, the offense and defensive pieces are young, but they're only going to be young while they're young. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Youth
now.
doesn't last forever.
It has to be now.
And also, if you fire Cotter now, yes, the Browns have had a bit of a head start, but you've got 6 weeks before any other team probably considers firing their coaches, to have a look at the candidates, have a look at the field, start putting out inquiries, start putting out feelers, let teams know that you're interested, and start selling Tampa as an attractive place for coaches. Is what Cleveland did. Another massive stroke by Dorsey. Although I don't know why he kept Hugh Jackson in the first place, but
but I would not put John Dorsey and Jason Litch in the same ballpark of general managers. That is something else that needs to change as well, I think.
But the problem with you, if I can say it, you can tell me if I'm wrong. My impression is that the Tampa ownership are so apathetic now to it's the Glazer family, isn't it? Yeah. They're so apathetic to the idea of sports as sports and not as a business that they probably couldn't give two cahoots who your general manager is, as long as he's pulling in money and as long as you have some kind of figurehead to constitute a franchise in Tampa Bay, which is probably quite an attractive market for them.
And based on the way that they've behaved recently, it's true. I'm waiting for them to prove me wrong in that sense, I think.
Yeah.
I think that was a doorbell too, wasn't it?
Should I get it or do you want to get it?
I can get it. It's just frustrating that people don't know how to use a key.
Yeah, it's interesting,
I said
that. Got a lot of things still to talk about. We are halfway through the show. I will be talking about my Panthers briefly, but I don't want this to just become a Panthers podcast every week. So I will ease up on the Panthers accelerator at certain points, but there is something that needs to be said. Yeah. Moving forward, though, what I want to talk about next is Max has returned, hence why I'm no longer filling. Jalen Ramsey. So there was rumours going around this week that the Jags were actively shopping him based on his kind of detriment to the locker room atmosphere, if you like, or the team identity. Did he prove his worth this week?
It's funny because one of the guys he talked smack about was Ben Roethlisberger, and who did he, had he not been for the flag, pick off in the end zone to potentially win the game? Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah. It's a funny kind of turn of events because it seems that the Jags knew, like last year, they had the Steelers' number. And they played them really well. Offensively, they didn't. Well, passing game wasn't very good, but running game was all right, but it was nothing remarkable to the point where you were going to win a game. Point is the Jags defense showed up.
Yeah.
No sacks, but they did show up.
The secondary showed up. Jalen Ramsey showed up.
I think Ramsey shouldn't have said what he said.
No.
I am happy he spoke his mind because sports people tend not to do that. I didn't like the way he did it. But equally, if the Jags...
to the kind of quarterback index he made?
Sorry?
What comments are you referring to?
So when he was talking about the quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
But if the Jags think that is their biggest problem, they are delusional.
Honey, you got a big storm coming.
Oh, they do. They do. I'm sorry. I don't get it. Your quarterback is trash. He wets the bed every week. It's awful. It's sad to watch a defense with so much talent, which, if they don't change anything on offense, is going to be gone in 2 years anyway, because they're going to realize we have better chance everywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's what happened to Seattle. The difference is Seattle's problem was with the coach. It wasn't with the quarterback, clearly. I have no problem with Jalen Ramsey, and I think this week was the ultimate middle finger to whoever started those rumors, whether they're true or not. Wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there was was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? Reporters were banned from going into the locker room because there was shouting and whatnot. I think there's dissension in Jacksonville's locker room, but I don't think it's centered around Jalen Ramsey at all. No. I wouldn't be surprised if he's an instigator of it, but I don't think it's him that's the problem. He's bringing to light the problems.
Mark says, actually gutted I slept through my alarms. My recap was so good.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Well, Mark, you can do it on Thursday.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
We'll run with that. Yeah. But you get minus 10 points.
Yeah.
For not doing it.
That's true.
On the day.
Yeah, we have to deduct him. We have to punish him. He'll probably still beat us, let's be fair.
Yeah. Jalen Ramsey, I don't think the solution is trading away Jalen Ramsey. I'm not sure what the solution is, but I know it's not their run game as it stands. So I know. Let me take you on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So Jalen Ramsey, not Jalen. Why did I say Jalen Ramsey? The Jags are subscribers to this belief that you run to set up the pass, right? So the more you run, the more the defense stacks the box, the better coverage you get outside, the better kind of passes you make. What we've seen as the game has developed is that actually you pass to set up the run. So when you pass the ball, defenders take their mind off the run. They're more concerned with the ball coming out of the quarterback's hand, and that's how you get either a cheeky 5-yard gain or an explosive 90-yard gain. We've seen that with the Rams, with Gurley, I would argue. Seen it with the Chiefs, with Hunt. The two best offenses in the NFL are subscribers to that ideology, I would say. And what the Jags are doing is playing football from the 1970s. And funnily enough, it kind of worked last year. This year, it's not working at all. So Fournette's come back in. In the last 2 weeks, he's had something like 56 carries for about 180 yards. So he is averaging just over 3 yards per carry. That's never going to win you a football game. I don't care if that's
No.
If that's, say,
if Ezekiel Elliott was to run 23 times like Leonard Fournette did this week, he would have run for 200 yards.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting example to bring Dallas into it because realistically, what passing threat did Dallas have? But actually, you look at what's happened. They've signed Amari Cooper. They have a legitimate number one threat on the outside. Whatever you think of Amari Cooper, he demands attention. All of a sudden, their passing game becomes a threat, and the running game chugs along behind it. And now Zeke has had 2 consecutive 100 yards from scrimmage games. As much as I hate the guy, he's playing well, and results are happening for that Dallas team.
You've got to think, though, that the reason the Jags probably subscribe to that is because what else can they do?
Yeah.
Because their quarterback is not capable. I said this last year. I've said this every year. He has been the joke of the NFL for I don't know how long. Yes, he had a great stretch. It was a fun stretch. And it was exciting at the prospect that Blake Bortles might actually take the Jags to the Super Bowl. But it didn't happen. And everyone, including him, have come back down to earth.
Yeah.
Like that meteorite did when it killed the dinosaurs. And it has killed all spirits in Jacksonville. He is bad. They paid him money. They got lost in the moment. And credit to say like a team like Minnesota that didn't get lost in the moment thinking Case Keenum was the answer. No, as it turns out, Keenum was playing better than Cousins, but that's besides the point.
You know what? I'm going to say it. Fans of the show will know I've been one of Bortles' biggest fans for a very long time. And I've defended him to the end of the earth.
Yeah.
Every week this season in my notes, there's something about Bortles playing well. There's something about how I can defend Bortles. I'm sick of it, Blake. I'm sorry. I've tried my hardest. Every week I come on this show and I defend you. Yeah. And I have to sit and have those two give me logic and reason. And I have to reply with absolute bull, to be quite frank. And yeah, I'm done. Blake, I'm sorry. You're not a starting quarterback. You might have a great career as a backup. Look at Chase Daniel. Or Chase McDaniel. What's his name? Chase Daniel.
Chase Daniels.
Yeah, look at Chase Daniels. He's had a great career. He's made loads of money. And what's he done? Thrown the ball about 60 times. That could be you, Blake. You could be that backup. Stop pretending you're a starting quarterback.
It's not his fault when people are giving him money. It's their fault.
Well, come on, I'm blaming Blake now, and now you're blaming someone else.
I'm not being funny. If someone came up to me like, would you like, $60 million to be a starting quarterback of an NFL franchise? Hell yeah. I don't care how bad I suck.
Okay, let me amend my apology. Blake, you're doing well, boy. You made a lot of money.
No. You suck, but you're not a sucker for, you're
a financial mogul.
Yeah.
Jags team.
He's almost as smart as Sam Bradford.
Do the Jags draft a quarterback or do they trade for him?
I don't know if there's anyone in the draft. This is the problem. Like Eli Manning is now suddenly playing well, which means he's screwing up the Giants wanting to get a pick next year for a quarterback. The Jags aren't that far down the list yet. They're 3-7. Unbelievably, there are teams lower than that. So I don't know.
The Raiders.
I don't know. I guess they could do either or.
For me, it's about
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will. Have. There's no. Well, based on my very basic knowledge of college football, there's no prospect who can come in and be a top 15 quarterback. It will take time for them to develop, and it's probably worth them sitting out for a year.
Which is why they need Teddy Bridgewater.
I agree with you. I think Teddy's the most logical thing. It was the most logical thing at the start of the season if they hadn't paid Blake Bortles $20 million.
Well, actually, no. There is another guy. Give him a couple of months to, readjust.
What, Jameis?
But I think Colin Kaepernick is exactly the sort of guy that would fit into that scheme.
Colin Kaepernick.
But it ain't going to happen. I mean, I keep bringing him up on this show. I have done this year. But it ain't going to happen.
I read an article that said Colin Kaepernick should go to the Redskins. And
poor Alex
beyond
Smith.
the fact that I doubt Kaepernick would sign for a franchise with racism in its name.
You can't do that to Alex Smith again. You can't do that again.
No, just Alex Smith on the hospital bed. Colin, why?
That would be 2 jobs Alex Smith has lost to Colin Kaepernick.
I mean, it suddenly makes sense.
If Kaepernick was to take the Redskins to the Super Bowl, I think Alex Smith would need to be put on suicide watch. Like, oh my god.
Brilliant. Right. Should we talk about Alex Smith, seeing as we've got onto the topic? How big of a loss is Alex Smith?
Tremendous. I know Colt McCoy kind of played serviceable, but Colt McCoy is...
Every time you say his name, he sounds like a weird American cartoon character. He should have like a stupid cowboy hat and a stupid gun and a stupid bandana.
Which is ironic because he plays for the Redskins.
Yeah.
But,
oh my god.
Let's just be honest. The guy sucks.
Yeah.
The Redskins are now gonna suck unless
the
Adrian
have seen
Peterson.
The best of Colt McCoy.
Unless Adrian Peterson can take 10 years off his life and rejuvenate this team, it ain't gonna happen. And it's sad. I mean, firstly, in terms of Alex Smith, it's sad because he's a great player. He's a genuinely good guy.
Yeah.
You know, and it sucks to see something like this happen.
How gracious he's been in losing his job to Kaepernick and Mahomes, and yet still not being bitter about it, not wishing hate on them. And I saw a tweet from Mahomes where it was like, get well soon, my man.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah, and you can just see the relationship that Mahomes and Smith had was one of like, look, I know you're going to take my job in a year, but I'm not going to hold you back. I'm going to teach you important things about being an NFL quarterback.
But I hope he's back next year. He's too young in my mind for this to end his career.
He is 36.
He's younger than that.
Is he?
Yeah.
I swear he's 36.
He is definitely not 36.
Or is he 34?
He's about 33, 34. He's the same age as Aaron Rodgers because they came in the same year.
34. My mistake. First overall pick.
Yeah. But the Redskins are going to suck.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is the team that no one was talking about in this division was a team winning the division, and is now the team I foresee losing the division because of this situation, unless Colt McCoy has had some sort of like renaissance in his career. I don't know. And it opens the gateway for Dallas to come riding straight
I'm not gonna lie
through.
to you. The way the 4 teams in the NFC East have been playing, I can't see anyone winning the division other than Dallas right now, which is...
I could had the Redskins not lost Alex Smith.
Yeah, I agree. It was the Redskins to lose, and then Smith broke his bone, and now it's the Cowboys to lose, I think. Unless the Eagles suddenly get a kick up the bum from Peterson and realise that they're Super Bowl champions and they can actually play like it for once.
I guess the Eagles are only 1 game behind.
It's such a rubbish division,
but then
isn't it?
We're not thinking about another team.
The Giants. Are you serious?
The Giants are 3-7.
Are you serious?
The Giants are 2 games behind the Cowboys.
Serious?
They're 2 games behind the Cowboys. And what have we seen the last 2 weeks when Eli Manning gets protection?
No, what have we seen the last 2 weeks against 2, let's be honest, god-awful teams?
Okay, I'm sorry. Who beat the Philadelphia Eagles? Tampa Bay.
Who got lucky? Tampa Bay.
I don't know. 6 teams got lucky against Philadelphia this year.
They scraped past Tampa. They put 38 points on that defense. Great. I'm not going to lie. We put 42 points on that defense. So,
Yeah.
It's not a great yardstick of your defense, is it? They beat the 49ers with essentially a last-minute touchdown.
It's miraculous how at 3-7 the Giants are still definitely in this division.
Which is, scary. Can he
Think about it though, right? In the space of the next 4 games, if the Cowboys go 2-2 and the Giants go 2-2, okay, even at 9 losses, the Giants are still in the division. That's how close it is. And that's how inconsistent these teams are.
I think an 8-8 team will win that division.
I think the Cowboys are going to win it, though. I will say that. I don't think the Giants are going to win it. I don't think the Eagles are going to win it. I think, in one respect, you might say the loss to the Saints was the kick that they needed. If anything, I think it was just insult to injury. I don't think they can recover from that. That was atrocious.
It's going to be super interesting predicting the NFC games this weekend. So if you're not doing anything on Thursday morning at 9 a.m, you will be listening to the show, I'm sure, where we'll be predicting them. Or if you're busy, make sure you keep watching our YouTube. This will go up, and also Thursday will go up. So make sure you listen to that. I do briefly, I hinted at it earlier, we're slightly short on time, but I just want to quickly say, we won't jump into a massive discussion about it. Panthers 2-point conversion, I liked it, but equally, all that 2-point conversion was Ron Rivera creating an excuse for the Panthers losing that game. All it was that it gave him something to talk about in the press conferences, something to throw Cam under the bus for, like he always does, like he has done over the last 8 years. Ever since Cam was drafted, whenever you lose, it's Cam's fault. It's never Rivera's fault. Rivera's just there as kind of the background figure, always causing the losses, but never taking the blame for them. Never causing the victories, but always claiming the credit. That's Rivera's trademark on this Panthers team, and we could see it in full fashion there against Detroit. Defense completely dysfunctional. Not blaming the defensive coordinator, blaming the head coach. Offense just vanished for kind of half the game, despite the best efforts of Cam, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. We have these amazing pieces on offense. We've shown in North Turner that we have an amazing offensive coordinator. Why, oh why, are we still dysfunctional? Oh, let's look at the culture of the team. Where does the culture of the team come from? The head coach. The head coach is so old and washed up and tired and past it. He is everything that McCarthy is without McCarthy's knowledge and experience and just general ability to be a head coach. If Ron Rivera doesn't get fired this season, I've just completely lost faith in this Panthers franchise.
You thought you beat the Lions, didn't you, Squidward?
Yeah.
It's funny because you lost to the Lions.
Anyway, we don't need to say anything else about
all I'll say of this is Ron Rivera will not get fired.
No, he won't.
He will still
He's
be...
got the third best record of a head coach in the last 5 years. Didn't you know that? He's led the Panthers to the playoffs in 4 of the last 5 years.
Well, in fairness, it's true.
Cam has the best record of a head coach. I'm just going to say it because Ron Rivera is Cam Newton. He runs with Cam and he dies with Cam. And if Cam has been on this entire season, and I've never seen Cam playing like this. Confidence, passion, ability.
His defense sucks, though.
Yeah, his defense sucks balls.
Speaking of which, Ron Rivera is what minded coach?
Oh, almost defensive mind. There are people on my Twitter saying Ron Rivera should take control of the defense. Ron Rivera, I can guarantee you, Ron Rivera has control of that defense.
Yeah.
And it's still doo-doo. Anyway, I don't want to spend the next 10 minutes crying.
Yeah.
We should talk about Lamar Jackson briefly, and then talk about Rams Chiefs probably.
Mm-hmm.
His first start, what did we think?
It's unsustainable.
Yeah,
it
I agree
was wacky. It was strange. And it was done because they know they can't do anything else. They're cutting a mile with Lamar Jackson in the sense that you watch it and it's just so raw, and you know that when they get it right, it's going to be great. Yeah. But it's not good right now.
I saw a really interesting tweet, which I agree with, which was what the Ravens did that game was they rolled out their Lamar Jackson package.
Yeah.
Which on offense was, what? You can throw a ball? Oh, well, let's just run it. And as the more Lamar Jackson starts, the more they're going to gradually reduce that Lamar Jackson package and introduce some more conventional kind of passing plays and things like that. And if that's your strategy for welcoming into the NFL, great. I think that's a really good idea to play on his strengths, which are clearly running and having the ball in open field and spotting gaps. And his, passing is not Lamar Jackson's strength. It might be in 5 years. It's not right now. I thought he did some amazing plays. There was that one right at the end of the first half where he somehow scrambled out of a collapsing pocket, found Willie Snead, I think, got them a field goal essentially. There were also some ridiculous rookie plays, which, I'm not going to say Lamar Jackson is rubbish. I think every rookie has those moments where they just do something stupid like he did on that interception. I just, like you said, I don't think he can take the hits for the rest of the season.
He's not built like that
Cam.
way. Yeah, exactly. Cam can take it because Cam is built like a guy that's supposed to take those hits.
Yeah.
He's not built like a guy that
Cam's
plays the position
built
he plays.
Like a tackle, essentially.
With Lamar Jackson, he's
a bit too skinny. He's a bit too quick.
It was Michael Vick that said this, and obviously Michael Vick is probably the best guy to go to with this. Is he said he's built like RG3, and what RG3 never understood was that he can't take the hits. And it took one of the most terrible injuries a quarterback can suffer to finally get through to RG3 that you can't do this, and it's ruined his career. And I hope that doesn't happen to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Someone needs
because
to
I thought RG3 could be the next big. I never thought he'd be better than Luck, which is why I'm glad Luck went before he did. But I thought RG3 could still be a big player. Didn't happen. I think Lamar Jackson can be a big player, but it's unsustainable. But I think, like you said with the Ravens, they saw the situation and thought, we have nothing else. Yeah. So let's just go for it because it's one game. Flacco might be back next week. And based on Jackson's performance, I don't see him taking over Flacco yet.
I think the Ravens at this current moment in time are still a better team with Flacco at quarterback.
Yeah, but at the same time, this was a good test because based on the preseason, it wasn't good. But what we saw from this was an improved passing game.
100%.
And his running game was a lot more
measured and
effective, than it was in the preseason. In the preseason, it was a bit underwhelming.
Preseason,
in this game,
it just
was
felt
pretty
like,
good.
hey, look at me, I'm Lamar Jackson, I'm going to run every time. Whereas actually today, he was handing the ball off on those zone reads. Him and, is it Gus Edwards?
Yes.
Just worked really well together. It's the first time a rookie quarterback and running back both ran for 100 yards in a game. They clearly like Gus Edwards in that zone read game, and that's exciting. I love read option. I grew up watching Cam Newton. Well, grew up. My American football mind grew up watching Cam Newton. So I love that. I love to see it in the NFL. I think he's got a bright future, but yeah, you're right. Currently, stick with Flacco.
Mm-hmm.
I want to briefly introduce a new segment.
Okay. Oh, God.
It's called Saints Watch. Where every week we just say, oh, the Saints won.
Yeah.
That was Saints Watch.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, we should, in these last 7 minutes, talk about Rams Chiefs because my oh my, what a game. 54-51 to the Rams. Right, let me give this conversation some kind of direction, or otherwise we'll just completely lose it in wowness.
Yeah.
Saw a tweet from Bucky Brooks, who I respect his takes most of the time. I think he's got his head screwed on. He said that what we saw in that game wasn't enough to win a Super Bowl. He said that style of football, that all-out offense, but nothing really there on defense, does not win you a Super Bowl. Firstly, it's not as if the Rams defense let up 51 points, or it's not as if the Chiefs defense let up 54 points. There were some defensive touchdowns. There were quite a lot of turnovers. I think like two fumbles on the Rams side, 2 fumbles, 3 interceptions on the Chiefs side. The defenses did show up and they did do something. Aaron Donald got, another couple of sacks. He's on pace for like 21 sacks. Mark, it was incredible. I went through all the motions. To be fair, it must have been incredible to watch live. But I think his point is essentially, a very traditional view that, yes, offense wins games, defense wins championships. If you want to be successful in January, you need to have a solid defense that can win you a game. And
he's wrong.
Yeah.
He isn't wrong in years gone by, but what the last few Super Bowls show us is the defensive team gets to the championship game, they lose to the eventual Super Bowl participants. Because all it has become in the last couple of years is big offense. And this game was... we knew this game was going to be big. We knew it was going to be big, but I'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous that a team can have 3 interceptions and still lay 51 points on you. That is ridiculous.
And 2 fumbles.
Yeah. I get his point, and it is an old-fashioned point, but to be fair to him, it's been a point that's been true for the first 45-plus years of the Super Bowl era.
Yeah.
But I think we're coming to a revolution of the game, and I say revolution rather than evolution because it's a complete change.
Yeah.
Where offense is now so unstoppable that a good defense is a defense that gets turnovers and are productive themselves in terms of points.
I 100% agree.
And I think Aaron Donald, in my mind, is still an MVP candidate, despite the fact that his defense isn't playing that great. But when you look at the individual, it's the same with Khalil Mack. The Bears are playing great defense because the individual players are making plays, but there is nothing you can do
sometimes against offensive schemes and offensive players and the powers that offense now have in terms of like the way the rules have been structured.
When you think about offenses, you think about the Saints and the Chiefs and the Rams and the Bears and all these other different teams are coming up with some of the craziest, most ridiculous things we've ever seen. You're never going to be able to beat them.
The fact that Taysom Hill is a successful NFL player shows you just how ridiculous offenses have got.
I mean, 4th and 7 becoming a 30-yard touchdown is ridiculous. But that's
to your running back who's lined up, not in the slot, but out wide as a wide receiver, beating his man.
There's Malcolm Jenkins giving the middle finger. But he knows. He's like, yeah, you did it. I gave you the middle finger for doing it. But you did it anyway, and you scored.
It's ridiculous.
So, yeah.
NFL has I'm going to call this the Madden theory.
Yeah, okay.
Because modern American football has become a real-life game of Madden.
Yeah.
You know, all these jet sweeps and the fact that the Rams run something like 80% of their plays out of 11 personnel, which is one running back, one tight end, 3 wide receivers.
Yeah.
And yet they're so incredibly successful. 60% of their runs are the same thing, outside zone. You know, there's no core variation. It's kind of little tweaks that confuse the defense. And their run blocking and their pass blocking. When you play Madden, you find the plays that work for you, and let's be honest, you stick to them.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't scroll through the playbook every time I want to play. I click down on coach's suggestions, and I see something that's worked for me in the past, and I say, yeah, I'll go for that again. But I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. So I might hot route at something, or I might flip the run to the other side. That's what McVay's doing with the offense. He's figured out. It's almost like last year was his experiment. He knows what works for this team.
Yeah.
He knows how to use Gurley. He knows how to use Goff. He knows how to use Kupp. He's now got Cooks, who seems to be his just favourite toy in the world. He knows that Woods is a consistent, probably number one receiver, I would say. Somehow he's figured out how to make Josh Reynolds successful, which, you know, is probably deserving of Coach of the Year in and of itself. And what he's done is, I've got it all figured out. We only need to do these things. But because of the way I can call them and I know them, we're still going to put 50 points up on you.
I think this was the game where both these teams, one of them was going to cancel the other out in terms of a loss.
Yeah.
But based on the way their offenses are playing, unless they come up against a better offense, like the Rams did against the Saints, they won't lose another game. Because that's the game now.
I think this is smart. If this had been the Super Bowl, it would have been insane. However, I can't see either of these teams taking on the Saints. Both teams are just a bit ropey compared to Breeze. That's a really interesting point.
And the thing with the Saints is they're putting up the same kind of points, but they're much more efficient. They're committing far less turnovers.
Yeah.
And that therefore means they're safer.
When the Saints play, you know, the inspiration behind Saints Watch was the fact that the Saints play. And it's almost like, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of boring. Because as exciting as it is to watch their offense, you just know it's going to be a blowout. You know that offense is going to perform, and you know that they're just going to complete. It's almost like they're not stabbing. With the Rams offense, it's like random stabs, and you eventually kill them. With the Saints, it's just like you walk into the room, you get the pillow, you put it over their head, and you just calmly sit there and watch.
Yeah.
As the defense is smothered by this pillow, and you win the game. You know, if you look at the Saints' last couple of games, 48-7 Eagles, who did they play last week? Bengals, 51-14. The week before that, Rams, 45-35. Every game has been putting up consistently over 40 points. And just the Saints as a threat are probably the best in the NFL. And on that note, we'll end the show there. Thank you very much to everyone who listened. Thank you, Mark, for participating from your bed. We'll be back on Tuesday at 9 a.m. as always for our prediction show. It's going to be a good one. There are some super exciting games this weekend, so make sure you tune in for that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, NFLementary. Follow us on Twitter, same job. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.